Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Reading today from Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 10, Chapter 5, the meeting of Nanda Maharaja and Vasudeva, text 25. So please repeat after me. Na ekatra priya sangvasaha suhrdam chitrakarmanam ogena vyuhyamananam lavanam srotasaha yata naikatra priya sangvasa suhrdam chitrakarmanam ogena vyuhyamananam lavanam srotaso yata. Na, not, ekatra, in one place, priya sangvasa, living together with dear friends and relatives, suhrdam, of friends, chitrakarmanam, of all of us who have had varieties of reactions to our past karma. Ogena, by the force, vyuhyamananam, carried away, plavanam, of sticks and other objects floating in the water, srotasaha, of the waves, yata, as. Translation and purport by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada, the founder Acharya of ISKCON. Translation: many planks and sticks, unable to stay together, are carried away by the force of a river's waves. Similarly, although we are intimately related with friends and family members, we are unable to stay together because of our varied past deeds and the waves of time. Purport: Vasudeva was lamenting because he and Nanda Maharaja could not live together. Yet, how could they live together? Vasudeva wants that all of us, even if intimately related, are carried away by the waves of time according to the results of past karma. Namo Vishnupadaya Krishna Presthaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Vikasa Swaminiti Namine. Namo Vishnupadaya Krishna Presthaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Vedanta Swaminiti Namine. Namaste Saraswate Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Pachatya Deshatarine. Jaya Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Sri Advaita Gadadhara Srivasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda. Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. Naikatra Priya Sangvasa Suhrdam Chitrakarmanam Ogena Vyuhyamananam Plavanam Srotaso Yata. Many planks and sticks, unable to stay together, are carried away by the force of a river's waves. Similarly, although we are intimately related with friends and family members, we are unable to stay together because of our varied past deeds and the waves of time. Again, another very instructive verse between Vasudeva is speaking this. He is completely enriched with self-realized knowledge. Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur, in his commentary, is pointing out why he is speaking this verse. So we can see in the previous verse, it is mentioned, "It is also by good fortune that I am seeing you. Having obtained this opportunity, I feel as if I have taken birth again. Even though one is present in this world, to meet with intimate friends and dear relatives in this material world is extremely difficult." This is the context in which it was, the verse is spoken. Now, Srila Vishwanath Thakur is pointing out that if that is so, he says, then now we can stay together. He says, Vasudeva speaks this verse, "Dear friend, just as twigs and grass." Exactly this verse as it says that Plavanam Shrota Soyata. So we can see when there is a, in the sea, you can see sometimes, some twigs, some leaves, some kusha grass, or some weightless object. It just floats, and at some point of time they are together, and again with another wave they all split. So very nice analogy, which makes one think. Here Vasudeva is pointing out that yes, it's very good. Let's meet now. Let's meet and discuss and spend as much time as possible, because who knows what's going to be the future, what's going to happen. Because the very nature of this material world is like this, that we all come together for some time because of our various karma, which here Vasudeva is nicely pointing out. Chitra Karmanam. Chitra Karmanam, Srila Prabhupada's specific word-to-word translation, of all of us who have had varieties of reactions to our past karma. So no one in this world is free from this. You may be a prime minister, the president, or the most important person, or you may call yourself VIP. As Guru Maharaj in one of the class, he said VIP, they think that they are the greatest persons, they are the most important person. He said that VIP means very ignorant person. A person who is ignorant, a person who has no idea that we are going to transmigrate at the time of death to another body. Who is an ignorant person who doesn't know the difference between spirit and matter, and he does not know there is a controller for spirit and matter. So he is actually an ignorant person. So Srimad Bhagavatam enlightens us with the transcendental knowledge. You can see right from the beginning this particular theme, which is very important for us to understand, that the material world is temporary. The nature's bindings in this material world are also temporary. So we should not be fascinated or we should not be floating in infatuation that I'm going to eternally be happy here. It's complete illusion. So Bhagavatam breaks this misconception right from beginning. So many examples are there in Bhagavatam. So recently, His Holiness Bhaktivikas Swami Maharaj had given a series of talks on time, Kala, what is the influence of time and like that. So very elaborate discussions are there, and we see right there in the Bhagavatam there are several instances by which great personalities like Vidura, Bhishma Dev, we see the advice of Narada Muni to and Angira Rishi to Chitraketu, and we also see in the 11th canto the instructions of Lord Krishna on the Varnashrama system, how they are very much pointing out how time is actually Krishna, is the Lord himself. How by the influence of time we are put into illusion, and it binds us in the material world. So if we do not understand how the time will influence us, we will be wasting yet another human form of life. So here the word waves of time is mentioned, and also in many places in Prabhupada's books and lectures, sometimes we can see force of time, that is also mentioned. Force of time, or the waves of time, or the influence of time. So we may come together and we may split, or we may separate altogether. So this is a little hard reality, but that's how this material world is designed. That's how the material world is. We come in this particular body. We have a mother, we have a father, we have a sister, we have a brother, Yeah, we may have a wife, we may have children, we may have an husband. So all those relationships here, it's very clearly pointed out, is that it is temporary. And at least theoretically, we should get to know this. There are so many people, thousands and thousands of people in the world, they have no idea about this. They take this particular situation, whatever situation they are into, they take that to be the reality. And then when there is a reversal that happens in their life, they cannot bear it. They break down. They get into depression. They collapse for a long period of time. They are not able to withstand whatever reversals they face in their life, and the life becomes a disaster. So, but we hear from Bhagavatam and great saintly instructions from the acharyas, and we are empowered, or we with the transcendental knowledge, we are able to see, perceive things, and we also get the strength to face the situations in this material world and progress ourselves in the path of spiritual salvation, or to make progress in the path of self-realization. So some sections from the Bhagavatam I was going through and tried to put some things together. So just to remind ourselves that how consistent instructions are given in the Bhagavatam about the temporary relationships, and how not only knowing that there is temporary relationship, that's the first point. Second thing is that what are we going to do about it? So if we do not understand it properly, then we'll be bound, we'll be attached to the petty temporary things of this material world, and we will forget the purpose of human form of life that we have got. And so what do we need to do about it? So few some verses and some of the sections from Bhagavatam I'd like to discuss now. So here is again yet a famous verse from the 11th canto of Bhagavatam. Lord Krishna is instructing. He says, Putra dharapta bandhunam sangama panta sangamah anudeham viyantyete swapno nidranugo yata. Very nice verse. He says, Panta Sangamaha. Panta Sangamaha means a person, a traveler. When a person travels, what happens? He picks up relationship during his travel. Let's say somebody is traveling in the train, or is going in the flight. Maybe the journey is for 8 hours, or 5 hours, or 15 hours, or whatever. So you may meet some strangers, you may meet some new people, and then gradually you talk with them. You develop some kind of relationship with them. And then what happens? It doesn't last for a long time. At least it is visibly seen in another 8 hours or 10 hours. Whenever the particular junction comes, he's going to get down. And your relationship is cut off at that time. So here Krishna is explaining the point. Putra, Dhara, Apta, Bandhunam. So all these children, wife, relatives, and Bandhunam, friends. So the association, living together with them, it's not going to last for a long time. He says, Anudeham viyantyete swapno nidra anugoyata. So in the dream, you may pick up so many relationships, so many amazing events may happen in the dream, but when you wake up, everything is gone. It's all gone with the wind, like that. So similarly, he says that all the relationships that you're having in this material world, all this is going to be finished. It's going to vanish. So understand this. That's what. So the association of children, wife, relatives, and friends is just like the brief meeting of travelers. With each change of body, one is separated from all such associates, just as one loses the objects one possesses in a dream when the dream is over. So remember, His Grace Haripad Prabhu always used to give this example. So now you have your mother and father. Who was your previous mother and father? In all the public programs and other programs, you used to ask. It makes people thoughtful, right? You can't name who was your previous mother and father, or the previous mother and father you cannot name. Only the current mother and father we know, and with the influence of the modern philosophy and so many so-called teachings, people don't believe that we are going to be born again. They are thinking that there is only one life and everything is finished with that. So the philosophy is that try to enjoy as much as possible, because everything is going to be finished. Now it's an opportunity to enjoy. So this is the foolish philosophy. So, but we understand that we are going to be born again, as the verse here it says, Chitra Karmanam, that we are all of us are facing the reactions of activities, whatever we have done in this life, we're facing the reactions, and it's going to continue. It's not going to end as long as we are not going to take essential steps to overcome the effects of karma. So that is the point. So then in that same chapter there are, so as a result, so if you do not understand this, that there is a relationships are temporary, and so don't be bewildered. What's going to happen? He says, Yastva asakta matirgehe putra vittai shanaturaha straina kripana dhir mudo mamaham iti badhyate. So he says that when a householder, if he does not understand that the relationships that I have is temporary and I have to do my duty, but if he doesn't understand that and he blindly becomes very much attached, so this is what happens. He says, but a householder whose mind is attached to his home and who is thus disturbed by ardent desires. So ardent, yastva asakta matirgehe. So his mati is already is attached to so many different kinds of desires arising from the mind. So he's attached to putra, vitta, money, aturaha. So atura is being disturbed. He's disturbed by money and then sons and then different desires. He's picking up strainaha. He wants to lustfully enjoy with the opposite sex. Kripanadhir mudho. See, the Bhagavatam says that he's a foolish person because he has not understood the science and the temporary relationships, whatever he has picked up, he's too much engrossed into it. And then as a result, what happens? Mama aham. These are the two things. Mama, everything belongs to me. I, me, mine. He floats on this philosophy. So Bhagavatam condemns this. See, Bhagavatam is what it is trying to do. It's identifying the disease and it's saying that, hey, you are in a disease condition. It's not going to help you. So try to identify that you have a disease and then try to overcome from this. So this is what it's pointing out. And then he says, Ahome, this is verse 57. Ahome pitaro vriddhau bharya balatma jatmajaha anata mam rite dhina katang jivanti dukkitaha. And then further, when he comes to this conception that I, me, mine, I am the center of the whole activities that is happening, then he gets into another set of bewilderment. What is that? He thinks that, oh, my poor elderly parents and my wife with a mere infant in her arms and my other young children, without me, they have absolutely no one to protect them and will suffer unbearably. How can my poor relatives possibly live without me? So then this kind of conception comes that nobody can live. I am the center of all the activities. Just it reminds me of that French poet's proverb. It says graveyards are full of indispensable men. So many people, they said, without me nothing will happen. The world will not exist. Everything will just stop. Somebody is coming and offering flowers in the graveyard. Everything is going on. Everything is happening. So this is again another illusion. So we can just see the example of course, they are great personalities, no doubt about that, but we can learn examples from them. Sridhara Swami, if you take in his life, and how he gave up the family life and he went and then he completely took up Krishna consciousness. He saw a lizard, a baby lizard, a lizard gave birth to a baby lizard, and then the baby lizard was immediately, it was surviving, it could gather some food and it survived, it started leading the life. So he saw that, oh, this baby lizard could survive. So then he was married and he had a baby was born, wife died. So he was thinking, how am I going to take up the path of renunciation? But he had complete faith in the Lord, that the Lord will protect. Of course, he cannot act irresponsibly. Again, I'm saying that these are the great examples of great acharyas. But the spirit of renunciation, you can see, the point is that he had full faith in the words of the Lord. And so that's the whole point here, that we need to have faith in the words of the Bhagavatam, we need to have faith in the words of the acharyas and try to practice it in our Krishna consciousness. So further he says, thus because of his foolish mentality, a householder whose heart is overwhelmed by family attachment is never satisfied. Constantly meditating on his relatives, he dies and enters into the darkness of ignorance. So this is the point. So the more we become attached to this material world, the more we become attached to the belongings of this material world, this is the whole problem. Then our consciousness is completely engrossed in it. So that is why we need to practice Immediately, there is no question of delay. We need to do it at the earliest. The more we mold our consciousness, the more we train our consciousness to think of Krishna, then we are in a safe path. So that is why Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur also in his song, he says, Keno Mayar Boshe Jacho Beshe Kachu Habudubu Boy. So the waves of the ocean, it represents, the time is actually completely controlling us. Then we become bewildered when the modes are attacking us. Sometimes we get great pleasure, so-called enjoyment is there. Same time, again another wave hits us. Then we are into so many difficult situations. We are in a sorrowful situation. Some reversals happens in our life. So Keno Mayar Boshe Jacho Beshe Kachu Habudubu Boy. So he says that what can you do? The influence of time and the material modes of nature is completely, it can devour us. So, Daivi Esha Gunamayi Mamaya Duratyaya Mam Evaye Prapadyante Mayam Etam Tarantite. We need to take shelter of Krishna. He is the only person who can release us from the clutches of Maya. So, Jeev Krishna Das E Bishwas Korletoya Dukhonai. Then again, we may just to understand, Bhagavatam also gives a definition of time. So many places is there. I just picked a few verses. He says, Bhagavatam says, the 10th canto, again there is a verse, very nice verse. It explains, Kalo bhaliyan bhalinam Bhagavan Ishvaro Avyayah Praja Kalayate Kridan Pashupalo Yata Pashun. It says, inexhaustible time, stronger than the strong, is the supreme personality of Godhead. So what is this time? Time is the Supreme Lord himself. And then he says, Praja Kalayate Kridan Pashupalo Yata Pashun. How a herdsman, how he is moving the animals along, he moves mortal creatures as his pastime. Kridan, like a pastime. Everybody is acting according to his will. We are not acting according to his will, but according to the influence of the material energy, which is working under his influence. So that's the point. Then Kapila Dev, he is also explaining, giving an analogy, beautiful analogy is giving how the time is influencing us. Kapila Dev, he says, Tasyai tasya jano nunang nayam vedhoru vikramam kalyamanopi bhalino vayor iva ghanavalihi. Again a nice analogy is given. So the clouds, it does not know how the clouds are moving. The clouds has no clue, but the clouds are moving because of the wind. So he says, as a mass of clouds does not know the powerful influence of the wind, a person engaged in material consciousness does not know the powerful strength of the time factor by which he is being carried. No one knows. We are thinking that we are, let's say someone has got a good bank balance, a good assets, good house, very good job. Apparently, he feels himself very comfortable in this material world. But sir, you do not know, within short span or a long span, however, it's all relative. By the influence of time, you're going to lose it. It's a shocking thing for many people to hear that. But that's a fact. Everything, you have to leave everything. So that's a fact. So that's what Kapila Dev here is pointing out. So that's why Chanakya Pandit, he very clearly gives an instruction in his